Thanks for having me. I'm Karol Janik. I'm Robotics and Automation Technology Manager at the MTC. I'm looking after our technology strategy in robotics and automation. I have a couple of other hats. I chair automation and robotics across the whole HVMC, so coordinating strategy across all the 6 centers. I'm member of DCIT, now DBIST, College of Experts, which covers all science and tech and do quite a lot of European international stuff as well. So I had 2 issues when I started preparing for this. First, trying not to repeat everything that others said before me. I think my brain prediction model did okay because I managed to avoid quite a lot of that. So I decided to talk about let's say the future robotics stuff and what it might mean and how it might get to the market. There will be some opinions and predictions. And my second issue was how to actually call this future robotics stuff, because there is already dozens of buzzwords from physical AI, embodied AI, robotics, AI-enabled robotics, frontier robotics. There is a lot going on, there is a lot of noise, and I'll try to cut through it a little bit. But before I do that, I'll kind of make a step back and I'll talk about how we've been doing industrial robotics so far. And when we talk about industrial robotics, for a lot of people, especially not necessarily living in a sector, this is the image that they'll get. So highly robotized automotive factory, and we've been doing it for many years as robotics sector. Great systems. That's been happening pretty much since 60s, since the first robots came online. What characterizes it? Obviously, very structured environment, very repeatable, very accurate, can produce lots of goods, thousands of goods. So very suited for high volume manufacturing. Come with very big capex investment, but we got very good at doing it. And obviously, over years, with all the advancements coming out of OEMs, faster, better, stronger, more precise, and so on. And talking to some innovators, or many innovators over the last years, which frankly always annoyed me, quite a lot of them been saying, oh, there is not much to do with robotics innovation in manufacturing because it's kind of all solved. And I always like to bring this image, which is essentially the same product, but even in automotive, with perception of the sector that's super robotized, there is awfully lot of manual work going on because of difficult tasks, because of uncertainty, and technology just not being able to solve those tasks. And this is where robot intelligence comes in. And we already heard quite a bit about robot intelligence from a couple of speakers. But again, robot intelligence is not a new idea. The first attempts or kind of first experiments actually being shown in late 60s, coming out of Stanford labs with some demos showing this kind of promise of solving the sense, plan, act loop to enable intelligent robotics. So again, it's not a new idea. But over the last 10, 15 years, out of this kind of very deterministic approach for robotics, we started seeing some disruptions. And there are kind of 2 key that at least in my opinion, are really worth bringing up. First one is not necessarily the collaborative aspect of robot, but I think something that really, at least in my opinion, made at least universal robots first popular. It's not necessarily the collaborative aspect, but very easy user interface. So lowering the engineering effort to deploy robotics in the industrial settings. And we can see collaborative or lightweight or easy to use robots adoption growing. So one is that disruption, covering the reduced engineering effort. And the second is something that I covered broadly around value creation. But what I meant by that is all the new advancements in robotics that allow us to deal with those more unpredictable, unstructured environments. And this is mostly so far advancement in machine vision and computer vision. But a question to the audience, when the first computer vision or machine vision robotics deployment happened in industry, what year was that?
60-something, early 60s?
No.
The NIST work with...
Industrial deployments. Okay. Not very far, 1981. And that was a light projection system with camera, doing some edge detection of different components coming out of foundry in General Motors factory. So conveyor belt pick and place. So we're talking over 40 years ago. And this hasn't dramatically changed until last 10, 15 years, where advancement in compute, advancement in neural networks, deep learning, I think really made the machine vision, computer vision much more reliable, much more popular, effectively getting much more traction and market within industrial robotics. So from very structured, very deterministic systems, now we're coming to systems that are easier to deploy, that have some level of intelligence. And I would argue that actually a lot of innovation, a majority of innovation in robotics is trying to solve those two problems, reducing the engineering effort to deploy systems or create applications, create solutions that automate new tasks or automate them faster, better, more reliably, more precise. But there's been a lot going on over the last 2 years. There is awfully lot of noise. It's even very, very difficult to keep up to speed with everything that's coming out of different announcements, different research. And there is, I think, a lot of, frankly, noise that is difficult to cut through. So a lot of advancements in artificial intelligence, obviously large language models, word action models, vision language action. I could continue for a while probably. Different form factors of robots, how we actually train those things, how we actually deploy those things, but also a lot of claims, a lot of that's the reaction I was hoping for, Marco. A lot of wild claims, let's say, politically about things like that. I mean, even doing maths very roughly, I think from what I tried to research, there is about 50 to 60 billion electric motors in use in the world. To make this happen, we would have to produce another 250 billions.
You doubled down on this recently.
Yeah, well. So this is a bit, extreme side of things with a lot of claims about what the AI revolution or humanoid revolution will bring, which I think frankly is unrealistic. The timescales are very questionable as well, and a lot of people is already backing on that with, I think, the big breakthroughs of the last 2 years. A lot of people are saying, in 5 years the world will be completely different. Now that's moving further. So there is some great stuff coming out of research labs, out of big tech. Again, the point that you made, Ross, when Stephen made the presentation, to make this happen in industry, we require 99.9 reliability. Even some of the best models, some of the best deployments, even for some of the simple tasks, are not there yet. I think what's valuable is not necessarily the simple tasks, but kind of more complex, multi-stage tasks that we would like to solve. And it will take awfully lot of time. I think we're talking a decade at least in my opinion, to maybe get there. And I think this raises an important question, that how this actually gets to the market. Because again, I've seen heard a lot of wild claims or interesting claims around it, even talking to startups and so on, because we're kind of talking about the clash of two worlds. One is our traditional supply chain with large OEMs, integrators deploying those great solutions in the industry. And the other hand, we talk about a lot of startups, some with crazy valuations and crazy funding that usually come out of AI labs, coming from very different world. And some of them claim that system integrators will disappear in the next few years. It will be all general purpose robots and so on, which frankly I think is unrealistic. So I'll make a couple of my opinions and predictions, and feel free to argue about it. I think first of all the traditional robotics, this will not disappear. No chance at all. I think it will just continue to grow. I think important question is how the novel stuff get into the original supply chain or the traditional supply chain. And there is a lot of I think interesting trends that I noticed over the last 12, 18, 24 months. One is big end users started quite significant, some of the big end users quite significantly investing into their internal robotics capability, some through just building internal teams, some through acquisitions of systems integrators, some through very big bets like Hyundai buying Boston Dynamics with their kind of long-term vision. Talking to some of the startups, I heard already, I think a couple of them saying that they are neo-integrator and they'll just do the things their way rather than how industry's been doing it so far. I think for the startups and for translation or commercialization of some of the new tech, the partnerships and joint ventures will be a very important model. And I think we can see quite a lot of that already with UR and their AI accelerator. I think Fanuc recently did a strategic partnership with NVIDIA. ABB acquired by SoftBank and released some really cool products in Robot Studio, Hyperreality, which covers some of the vision sim to real stuff, I believe. So yeah, in my opinion, the kind of traditional robotics supply chain will start getting more and more of the novel stuff, but it will be a slow transition over years. I think we'll get better at solving difficult but still fairly simple tasks and going into this kind of long-term horizon tasks much further. I think for the startups, those who will recognize those partnerships and getting and collaborating with right partners, both on the end user side and the supply chain, this is where they can think about their success rather than trying to do it on their own. Because from doing a lab demo and pilot to actually deploying solution, maintaining it, servicing it, and making it happen 24/7, there is a very big gap. And just to finish, I'll just very briefly talk about some of the things that we've been doing to support not only adoption of mature technologies, but also support of the translation of the new stuff, let's say. We recently opened a new facility that we call Robot Experience Center, which covers quite a lot of different robot systems from different vendors, and it's broken up into different, very industrially and end-user relevant areas. I think so. There's application zone where we cover machine tending, welding, palletizing, collaborative zone with several different setups with collaborative robots, which also allows us to test some of the work coming out of startups, and an industrial zone with several larger industrial robot and kind of multi-robot cell. So that's been launched a couple of weeks ago. We're still kind of finalizing a couple of bits around it, but this facility is very much for, on one hand, SMEs and industrial end users to have a chance to validate, test, or get experience around their first steps in robotics, but also startups to be able to access very industry-grade, industry-relevant environment to test their solutions. And together with that, we actually have 2 accelerator programs for startups alive now. One is our automation robotics accelerator. That's another cohort being opened yesterday, and we have another other slightly different accelerator for startups in partnership with Plug and Play, and applications for both are open. So if anybody's interested about it, I'm happy to have a chat after we finish. But that's about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.